Wow, this lighting is doing wonders for me. Weird. Hi everybody. Oh, whoa, it's been a long time. I've been meaning to make a video for about 3 months, but I figured it would be best if I did the video after I finished my first 3 courses at UTS, an architecture school, masters. And I'm going to make 3 separate videos, starting with this one, reviewing each one, and hopefully they'll be interesting, and maybe it will help you make a decision on the kind of courses you want to take. I need to clarify that this is all about my personal experience, my interpretation, the other students who feel completely differently to my own, which is to be expected. This is my take. All right. Okie dokie, I'm doing a screen record. Hopefully this thing gets me as I'm talking. Oh yeah, welcome to my desktop, new computer. I got the MacBook Air. I think I'll make a video on why I did that rather than get the new iMac. Anyway, that's a whole other topic, and I might do a video on file organization because I noticed a lot of students aren't very good at it and it drags their time management down a lot. So I said I would start with my environment course. Maybe it's worthwhile I show you how it was presented to me. So I'm not going to read through this, but basically we were separated into groups of 2 and we all got one of these surf clubs in Sydney, and I got the Cronulla Surf Living Club. And then we had to iterate or reiterate 3 different times based on 3 different ideas of sustainability, which are to do with immediate problems and acute stresses for disasters that might happen, or long-term problems to short-term problems. So designing for floods if you're in a flood zone, for example, or, well, you get the point already. Part 2 was about, you know what, before I get into that, I'm just going to show you assignment 1. A1 for assignment 1. Okay, so where do I want to go? I want to go here we go. Here's the first assignment. Oh, geez, it's been a while. So we had to do a risk assessment of minor to significant and prioritize things for our design or redesign. And well, we realized that there were a lot of problems. I won't get into it now. I think this project got a distinction, so I'm not complaining, pretty happy with that. I'm going to be honest with some of my marks. Another course I did, I thought I was going to do very well. I actually did terribly. Another course I did, I thought I was going to fail, ended up getting a high distinction. So, can never predict these things, but it comes down to if you're happy with your work, if you got the most of it yourself. That's what I've come to realize very early on in this master's degree. I wanted to rant, so I'll get back to this. Typical site diagram or site analysis, but what it's doing, which others probably don't do, is it's showing where the current ocean level is at, and then it's going to rise higher, and how can our building respond to appropriately adjust or readjust or be reused in 100 years when half the building's underwater. So these were problems that we had to assess. Oh, it's so long ago, I don't really remember what we did, or it feels long ago. So we had rising ocean, extreme heat, community involvement, because we assessed the current building and we reckon it could be done better, and then planned redundancies. So that's to do with the ground floor level, which is going to be flooded in 100 years based on some numbers. Not to say it will happen, but in the worst case it will. And it was some suggestions as simple as, let's move the plant room, which is at ground floor level, which will be flooded. And this is all the services and electrical boxes and mechanical. Well, let's move that to a floor that isn't going to be flooded. But luckily the ground floor was already kind of designed not to be that useful. It was a gym and boat storage. So if it does get flooded in 100 years, well, so what? Then we extended the length of, well, the size of the bathroom. That was quite simple, really. Not much to it. Lots of diagramming. Oh, this wasn't the final version. I'm sorry about that. I don't have the final version. There goes my organization. It's because my group member did the final edit and uploaded it to Dropbox. Anyway, it's not too important because it's just assignment 1. Okay, assignment 2. What we've got here. This one was about the carbon footprint. Here we go. The carbon footprint is about, oh geez, what is it about? The carbon footprint in this project was Oh, I'm really stumped. How embarrassing. The goal of task 2 was to diminish and actually remove all our carbon footprint of the building. And this doesn't come so much down to passive design, more so, according to our teacher, what's more important is it comes down to how the building operates and how much energy it needs to function. So passive building, in my opinion, is very important, but according to my teacher, he threw the number 5% is about passive. The rest of it is actually the materials you use and how much it costs to maintain and run the building itself. And I'm not going to discredit those figures. It just surprised me a lot. So we had this idea of sequestering carbon, which was another important part of carbon neutrality in building. So how can you give back to the environment instead of only taking? You can do some really simple things, and that's what the course looked at. So we said we can have a bug cafe, and the building green roof can be harvested for all these bugs, and it means you're also adding a whole enterprise value to the building. Then water harvesting tanks, because it doesn't have solar panels. It might have, but it wasn't included in the DA plans, which I took from council website. We're using something called ultra white paint. It's a new paint technology. It's not on the market yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it came in soon. I think it's being run by India, maybe Bangladesh, and it's an ultra bright white paint that reflects a lot of sunlight heat off the building, but it doesn't blind anyone either. Then I was looking at some traditional wind towers, which my teacher didn't seem to be a fan of, but he liked everything else. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, and then we have an off-site solar farm, but this is bigger picture in Cronulla. It certainly wouldn't be part of a typical on-site response to anything, but the argument our teacher made is, and rightly so, buildings about in the year 2000, I think he said, they focused on doing everything by themselves, being 100% self-sustainable, not relying on power grids or any of that, but it's too expensive and it's kind of impractical and it needs a lot of space and it doesn't work in a city. Here's a basic diagram. I assessed me and my group partner assessed the roof, and we figured the roof could do some changing. It's a little bit inefficient, the shape's confused, and it's not helping the air circulation through the building. And then the wind tower, which is a very traditional concept, was going to be added on top. So we're not destroying any of the original building. We're just adding a hot box to the top that's going to suck air out using the Corridana effect. Here's the diagram of the green roof. But I'm sure you know what that is. What we added was, it's about the bugs and it's about using native plants in the area. And then here's a diagram about the white paint, just more basic. Then we had a sustainability statement. Okay, that's number 2. I think that was also a distinction. This might blow some of your minds, but I actually have my final studio assessment tomorrow. I finished all the work for it a day early, which is cool, but it just goes to show with some organization, doesn't have to be the kind of thing where you go to bed at 5 in the morning and wake up at 7 to get to class. It's just crazy to me. Just organize your time, but you can still work a couple days a week, or this is how I'm doing it, and I'm comfortable. Okay, assignment 3. Went on another tangent. Let me know if you're enjoying the tangents. If you're not, I will stop them. This one's about social sustainability. Something I wouldn't have even bothered considering. It's like something so obvious, but not given so much attention to. It's not done enough. And at first, I thought about this course. Well, this is a waste of time. It's always defaulting to the expert rather than the architect who's an expert in architecture. So I thought, well, I'm a student. I'm here to do cool designs. Well, actually, in reality, if you want to do social sustainability well, architects aren't the experts in the matter. We can have a say, but we're certainly not the most understood. And what this course tends to look at is, because we're in Australia, it looks at Aboriginal culture and integrating that into our design. But the point is, if you're not Aboriginal, well, maybe you should let someone who is Aboriginal say and determine what's appropriate. So what our teacher did was invite some professionals and community members from the Aboriginal community to tell us what they think is appropriate, but even they admit it comes down to the person you're asking. Next, so first we looked at Aboriginal history in the Shire, and this was to do with the wildlife and the cultures and the things that are actually neglected. And I found it somewhat entertaining that we chose this narrative for our design, given it is in Cronulla and its history has been funny, but it was almost like a nod to progressing history forward, which is very important. Then we decided that on the second floor level, which is the top floor, but it's also at ground level, it's on a very steep slope. It's going to be repurposed for classes educating anybody about Aboriginal culture, and that will be run by an appropriate person for that. Then we have an administration room, and then I'll go into what these are here. The first-hand RVs that we are repurposing for on-site living, basically for people in need, to provide shelter, a place of accommodation, and it's kind of not hidden from the public so much. It's more demystifying and humanizing people who need homes, who can't find them at the moment. Initially, we said we were going to put some signs describing the Aboriginal history of the location, which is no longer very obvious. So what we were told is to instead celebrate it, do art, almost like sculpture by the sea, which is something that happens in North Bondi to Coogee, but in this case it's Cronulla to that head, which I don't know the name of. Shame on me. And we were saying we put a looking glass at each end of the beach, free to use, not the ones you have to pay. Those are terrible. And you can appreciate the sculptures by the sea, really, all corroborated by Aboriginal artists. So I just went over my group partners' stuff, so I hope I recapped that properly. Basically, this project is about helping people who need a temporary accommodation, and it doesn't have to be ugly, it doesn't have to be hidden from the world. In fact, it's saying these are people too, but they're not a spectacle either. It's not a zoo. The rest is the same in his little perspective, but you can kind of see that we got almost complacent in our design as we went, because there wasn't much to change, as we had already implemented part 1 and 2 to this third one. All of this looks familiar, doesn't it? But that's the thing about social sustainability. He could have made everybody redesign without using the old focuses, but the problem is they're interlinked. I wouldn't have noticed new, but apparently it started this year. You have to write a sustainability statement for every hand-in, for every assignment you do. I think it's kind of unnecessary because this is a course about sustainability, but oh well, it's good to recap. So if you're interested to know more about this, well, this thing sums it up pretty succinctly, and I'm sure I've missed out half of them. And there you go. I'm actually starting my 3-part series on the first 3 courses I've done this semester with maybe my favorite one. Weirdly, I might not be saying a lot on why I liked it or the things I didn't like about it, but I certainly figure it's useful and meaningful compared to the other 2, which I will get into. Not to say that they're useless, but this one I found the most practical and far-reaching for things that I will apply in the future. And I actually think this should be a studio course, not an elective. I'm not sure if I clarified that at the start, but this is an elective. It means it's only worth half as much time and weighted average in your mark as a studio. But this demanded just as much. At the start, it demanded just as much work. Then it eased off as we went on and was very accommodating for the studio and the other course. I would happily recommend this course to a lot of people who are interested in some of these things. Yeah, okay. That's my first video. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time. I'm going to do another video. I will link it. Oh yeah, question. Since I did my last video, have I lost hair? Am I going more bald? I probably am. I swear, I'm like doing these drawings and I see a hair drop down every half hour. Oh man, it's saddening.